Okay, let's do this. This is a special meeting of the Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment
Thank you. Got it.
Committee. We are here for a report relative to the issuance of financial commitments with respect to tax credit letters for support of 7 Affordable Housing Trust Fund pipeline projects. Do you need to read the agenda?
Mr. Chair, yes, item 1. Los Angeles Housing Community Investment Department report relative to 7 Affordable Housing Trust Fund pipeline projects.
Okay. Let's hear from the department. Hey.
Good afternoon, Ed Gibson from the Housing Community Investment Department.
Good afternoon, Magdalena Zakarian, Housing Community and Investment Department.
Before you today, we have a request to issue commitment letters for affordable housing projects in the pipeline. I'll just give a quick overview of the managed pipeline. We basically currently have a list of about 2 years' worth of projects currently in that pipeline. We sent out requests, developers send in their proposals, they're evaluated and rated, and then they're put into the queue based on their projected timelines. And that's the way it gives the developers some certainty, if you will, about when they're going to get through the process and enables them to start spending money appropriately to get affordable housing going. It's really a development of 2 major factors. One, that the city now has more control over its tax credit allocation so that we can allocate our regional set-aside, if you will, but not necessarily our special needs, which is on a statewide level. And then the other one was with the demise of CRA, there's no pre-funding anymore for projects, so they weren't able to get pre-development, so there wasn't the certainty or the ability for a lot of these developers to move forward. Currently, the pipeline does go out through 2017. Our current request is a number. I'll let Maggie go through that in just a moment. But what we tried to do is go through a balance of, we know how many 9% tax credits are allocated to us. Some of these projects went for 4% tax credits. We're always constrained by how much home dollars we have, and we did our best to find the best combination to move as many projects forward as we can, including some permanent supportive housing here in the city. And from that, you see some adjustments when you go through the report that we increase some projects' money because when they went to compete at the state level, they weren't competitive enough. And so we increased their leverage because we want to make sure they get out and get funded and get built. And we did all that with all the regulations and rules that are set aside about how much money you can put in, balancing it off against what the development needs of the project are. So I'll allow Maggie to go through this specific request this time.
So today we're here to request approval to issue letters of commitment and letters of support for a total of 7 projects that will be applying to TCAC and CIDLAC in March of 2016. Applications for TCAC due on March 2nd, so we need to issue letters by March 2nd. There are a total of 7 projects. There are 3 4% tax credit projects, and there are 4 9% tax credit projects. This project will result in 419 affordable housing units, out of which 176 units are set aside for large families. 47 units are set aside. 49 units are set aside for seniors. 194 units are set aside for permanent supportive housing residents. The total request for the project is $26 million, out of which $11 million is new money for increase of funds and for 1 new project.
I would just add inside the permanent supportive housing projects in the detail that 23 of the units are for homeless, 111 are for chronically homeless, which are the most challenging for us to house inside the city. And then there's another 47 or so for veterans, if I think I have the numbers correctly. So we tried to find the best balance with those funds, and with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Give me the numbers on homeless and chronically homeless aggregated.
Permanent supportive housing overall was 194 units.
Wow.
Am I reading that correctly? Yes, I am. So inside there, 23 units for just general homeless, 111 for chronically homeless, 13 units for veterans, and 47 for special needs populations. I need more detail.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Sir? Mr. Senator?
Thank you for the effort. So these are the first 7, and then in July you'll come back with another.
Yes. Yes. You should have, at the back of this report was a calendar. It's been since updated on the date, and you should have the revised one. That's it exactly. So that tells you when each project is slotted to come before us going for tax credits. So that makes it everybody understand who's there and what line they're in, and we know when they're going. We balance that off each time against, as the days get closer, some projects aren't going to make it. We know you have planning issues, entitlement issues, other funding issues, and that list changed. And a very good example is this round, particularly in your district, sir. MacArthur Park was delayed due with ongoing negotiations with Metro, if you will, about the project. And so it had to be pushed back. So there's projects that are sitting back there, and we find out who can move forward. So we always keep going. So it's always a balancing act to the very end.
Okay. Mr. Fuentes,
Mr. Cedillo.
any questions?
Nope.
All set. You're set? Okay, so we need public comment first, or? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's have public comment. I have Patricia McAllister. 1 minute, please.
Yes, I have a problem with this plan here. I don't see anything in district where the black people are. I'm for black people. I don't know what the other people are for, but I'm representing black African Americans. I see District 14, 26 units, 10, District 10 and 10, I see that's black, but I don't see anything in District 9 here, and very few in District 8, 70 in District 8, but no money allocated. What's going on here? Cedillo, I'm going to get your name right one day. You represent the illegals. You seem to get a lot of money. You got $3,930,000 here for 26 units. I don't understand how you get almost $4 million for 26 units. And those units will be going to illegal aliens. We need a criteria where no illegals are living in this affordable housing. That's why we have blacks on the street. You got illegal aliens. Until we get that criteria, then we're right back where we started. No affordable housing rented out to illegal aliens who cross the border and then come in here and go in affordable housing the next day.
Your time's up. Mr. Alcala, please.
Yes, the previous speaker is really stupid
On the microphone, please.
because there is no illegal human being in this world. She's the illegal one because of her stupidity. At any rate, until we change the laws of real estate, until we change the way we do real estate, we're not going to end homelessness, nor for blacks, nor blue ones, nor yellow ones, nor brown ones. We're not going to change homelessness around the world unless we change the approach that we approach housing for everyone. We need to find a system where everybody is provided with a place to live and not in a pigeonhole up in the apartments, but a place of their own where they can grow a little something, where they can be independent. We don't need these people telling everybody we are the legal ones.
Thank you, sir. That concludes public comment. Do we have a motion to adopt the HCID report?
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. No objections? So be the order.
Mr. Chair, that takes us to item number 2, HCID report relative to the 2016 Round 2 funding opportunity of the Strategic Growth Council.
Okay.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Claudia Monterrosa, and I'm the Director for Public Policy and Research at the Housing and Community Investment Department. And I'm here to report on the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant Program, the second round of funding. This second round of funding was issued on January 29th of this year. And the city has, and all potential applicants have about 6 weeks to complete a concept application proposal. The Strategic Growth Council has a two-prong approach, the concept application phase, and then those will be reviewed. And the Strategic Growth Council will then invite a pool of applicants that they've determined are ready to go for a full application. Those full applications will be due on June 20th of this year. So HCLA has been reporting on this program for the last year to 2 years, and wanted to really acknowledge key folks that have been working with HCLA in getting this program underway. The council's, city council's role has been significant, together with the city working group and in assistance with the CLA. We have provided guideline comments, and those actually improved and had relatively good outcomes for the city. In addition to that, the mayor's office has had a leading role in advocating for the city's position in Sacramento and with the Strategic Growth Council. So together with the city council and the mayor's office and key city departments, along with LA Metro, we have been coordinating the city's approach for the second round of funding. In anticipation of the second round of funding, HCLA coordinated a series of workshops and invited developers to do an extensive outreach to basically identify both non-managed pipeline and managed pipeline projects, because the city is interested in supporting all in potential ASIC applicants that are good to go for the second round of funding. I did forget to mention that the amount that's available for this round of funding is $320 million. So that's a significant increase from last year. As you may recall, $120 million statewide, and then for this year is $320 million. And that is based on statutory requirements that have been established by law that say that 20% of all cap and trade proceeds must go to the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant Program. So if there is already an increase projected for those cap and trade proceeds, we will continue, or this program will continue to receive 20% of that. That's the set aside. Already the governor's budget has outlined appropriated $400 million for this program for the 2017 funding round. And we're expecting for that amount of money to continue to increase through 2020. The cap and trade program itself, the 11 or so projects are set to sunset at some in 2020, but there are efforts underway to continue the funding of these dollars. Before you, I want to go into before we go into the details of the transmittal, I would like to outline some key wins for the city based on all of our advocacy efforts. One was the really important elimination of the jurisdictional cap. There's no longer a $50 million limit, so now there is no jurisdictional cap and there is no geographic distribution either. There is an increase in the maximum amount of awards that can go up to $20 million per project. And that is both for the transit-oriented development project type and for the interconnectivity projects. There have been revised GHG quantification to address affordability issues. There have been key changes to bus rapid transit and high-quality transit definitions that advance or really positively impacted the city. Given those changes, we were able to qualify more of our affordable housing projects into the TOD category. And that's really important in determining what is needed in terms of the requirements. A TOD project requires an affordable housing component. That is your anchor to be able to apply for this funding. The ICP project type requires a new category that was created for this program called the Sustainable Transit Infrastructure category, and it requires that as the anchor to move forward. And then you can combine an affordable housing project, a housing-related infrastructure project, or a transit amenity project. There were some other significant changes that resulted in the final guidelines as adopted by the Strategic Growth Council in December 17. And those were the creation of these two new transit categories, the sustainable transit infrastructure and the transportation-related amenities. There is also further incentivization for the 4% tax credit program. The per unit amount went from $35,000 to $60,000 per unit. The eligible threshold for investment for infrastructure, it was lowered down from $1 million to $500,000 because a lot of localities would not have been able to come up with a $1 million amount for a transit infrastructure project. A key change also, and one of the reasons why we're here to propose this policy framework to you today, is the housing and transit collaboration points that are now being awarded. So the changes require that an applicant can go for up to 4 points if that applicant goes with a city, a locality, a transit agency through a co-application status. Further, there are 3 additional points that can be received or competed for if you have a minimum of $500,000 for an STI and $500,000 minimum for affordable housing. So that's $1 million combined, and that's how you can get up to 7 points out of 10 points that are available in the housing and transportation category. So given the significant policy changes, the ASIC city's approach is to increase the competitiveness of ASIC funding applications, to promote high-quality projects that invest in the LA city's priorities, to improve overall capacity for the city to plan, seek funding, and deliver ASIC projects, and to also realize state and regional transportation plan goals for meaningful collaboration across public and private housing and transportation efforts. And I can't emphasize enough how significant that collaboration has been since the fall of this year. We have been deeply engaged in working groups with the Department of Transportation, with the Department of City Planning, with LA Metro, with Enterprise Community Partners as a consultant, as a technical assistant provider through an MOU that we signed with them, and other city departments, including the Public Works Department, LA River folks, and LA Sanitation. So before you, we are asking for you to authorize ACID to sign on behalf of the city for a potential co-applicant as determined by the proposed criteria. For HCLA to continue to lead these coordinating efforts, not just for this round, but for future rounds. This will be utilized as the set to further improve the process and better coordinate this based on the lessons learned from this round, and also to approve the city proposed strategy for the co-application selection criteria. Lastly, is to authorize us to issue funding commitment letters and letters of support for affordable housing projects that meet the criteria. And the proposed criteria is as follows. One will be to support, provide general support for all applicants that have determined to be ready. The second one will be to have a co-application criteria that meet the following. They have to meet the ASIC issued threshold requirements at concept application. And in addition, a co-applicant must satisfy at least one of the following. Have been admitted to the city's affordable trust fund managed pipeline, be a prioritized, an HCLA prioritized planning project or a project that achieves policy objectives that implement the production and preservation of affordable housing near transit. And advance and promote sustainable transit infrastructure and amenities that implement prioritized LADOT or Metro projects. The potential ASIC applications that are reviewed by the city's working group, if the ASIC city group determines that an application does not meet the above criteria, then does not preclude them from getting a full support from the council. The other consideration for us as we continue to review this list is the legal co-application requirements. There is a joint and several liability requirement, and we have engaged in conversations with our city attorney and the risk management office. We have also sought guidance from the Strategic Growth Council and our technical assistance providers. And bottom line is that we would have to provide some indemnification language, address that with the potential developers, those are developers that choose to seek our joint application status will have to comply with those terms. If you have any further questions on that, city attorney and risk management are here to answer any questions to that regard. And the last part of the criteria is to provide the letters to prove enforceable commitments. So we passed out an updated project list, and I'll give you a summary of what that list means moving forward. So based on the outreach that we did in the fall and early this year, we identified 20 potential ASIC applications for round 2 that total 1,400 units. Of these 20, after the review by the city's ASIC team, we have determined that 12 of those 20 are ready to move forward. So that now becomes the pool of potential concept ASIC applicants. The estimated total funding request for these 12 projects, and this is an estimate because we're still working through the financials on these and identifying transportation, budget requests and cost estimates. The estimate so far is about a little bit over $52 million. 9 out of the 12 projects before you are TODs. 9 out of the 12 are in the managed pipeline, totaling 692 units. 4 out of the 12 are special need housing, containing 353 units, and 2 of the 12 are senior housing projects that total about 189 units. All projects are in disadvantaged communities, and all of them except for 2 are TOD projects. So the last thing that I want to say is that I really want to thank all of the city departments involved in this process. We could not be here without the support and really the deep planning effort that we have engaged over the last few weeks. In particularly in early February when we held one-on-one clinics with each of the developers to understand their projects more fully, and that really helped determine that outcome for us. So that's the report. So far, I'm here to answer any questions that you may have moving forward.
Questions? Questions? Okay, let's move this. For the record, we're going to amend as you...
Public comment first.
Yes, sir. Public comment. Patricia McAllister. Wayne from Encino.
I think we need to change these department heads. When they come in here and speak, these are the people who are allowing all of these illegal things to go on. Now, I know for a fact that these area mediums, the incomes are being changed. Once these units go up and go out, and they get this, they get these tax breaks and all of that, they change these mediums and kick out people. This department the housing department is supposed to keep a ledger and of who's living in these units and what the area mediums are, to find out if they're changing them. I know this is happening. This city needs some work. Now, as far as illegal aliens coming into these meetings speaking, I'm against that. They need to have immigration standing outside the door, and I want Donald Trump to go down 5 generations. We're not just going down 1 generation. So some of you on this panel might be out of this country. If your mama, grandmama, great-great, if they were illegal, you're illegal. And don't come in these meetings looking like an insane, like you from an insane asylum.
Wayne?
Yeah, according to John Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.org, the private sector versus you guys can provide these units of housing at a much lower cost. So we need to get that private type of involvement. There's too much of this crap with all of these projects and the expense being spent when it can be done for less money, and all of these surveys tell us that. So we need to get out of trying to create affordable housing, and we need to get into taking our infrastructure and putting the money into the infrastructure, the sidewalks and the streets, and getting traffic congestion down, because that's creating the inability to get the city moving. That creates poverty, and you're only going to have more need for housing when we need for jobs. So get rid of all of this crap, like Patricia McAllister says, get rid of it, and let's get to business.
Wanna
Yes, a little historical perspective. The blacks were brought here illegally, so they're illegal aliens. The whites came here illegally, so they're illegal aliens. Who the hell are the only ones that were really here? The American Indians. Where are the American Indians? Out there in the desert running casinos? See, historical perspective. We're all illegal aliens if we judge that way. So let's concentrate on providing housing for everyone, regardless of color, race, creed, whatever. And let's get rid of all this making housing a commodity. Housing should not be a commodity. It should be a human right instead of all this BS about the color of the skin and all that. You know, Martin Luther King wouldn't agree with McAllister.
Thank you. Jacob Lees. Sir, how are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Jacob Leib. I'm the Sustainability Policy Manager for LA Metro. I want to thank you for your leadership. I also want to thank and acknowledge the city staff for the excellent team effort on this program. Last month, the Metro Board approved a policy framework and a strategy for the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities program. Your consideration today is acknowledging the priorities that Metro set. Our objectives here are to make sure that LA County is competitive for this funding and also to assure that the transportation components that are included in these application packages are of high value and benefit to the public. So we think we're on a great track here. I just want to, again, acknowledge the excellent team effort of your staff at HCID, LADOT, Bureau of Street Services, the Planning Department, City Attorney, and others. It really has been exemplary. So thank you again.
No, thank you, and thank Metro for your leadership and collaboration with us. Okay, ready to read these recommendations? Yep. Amend HCID report with the following recommendations. Recommendation 2A should be amended to read, upon council's approval, a final list of projects, authorize the HCID general manager to sign on behalf of the city as an affordable housing and sustainable communities co-applicant as determined by the proposed criteria. Let's ask our city attorney to prepare the appropriate indemnification agreement and review the city's insurance requirements for projects the city is to apply with as a co-applicant. Amend the co-application selection criteria to include a required letter of support from the council office representing the district in which the project is located. And finally, instruct the CLA to prepare a council resolution in support of the AHSC projects that the city will partner with as a co-applicant or will offer general support. Those are the amendments. Recommendation? Motion?
Move.
Move, second. Without objection?
Done.
Done, so be the order. No other matters. We have general public comment. Patricia McAllister.
Mr. Chair, you
Yes.
don't need to take general comment in a special meeting if you don't wish.
Oh,
I
meeting
very,
is adjourned. Thank you so much. Thank you.
well, who is she? Oh, she's the city attorney? I want to know why you all getting a $999 million.